My name is Shwa. Welcome. This is the Intimate Evening of Poetry at Office of Collecting and Design. This is Jessica Orrick's place, and this is our second season being here. We love this location. The readings are really tight and intimate, as you can tell, but it's a lot of fun. It's a beautiful spot, and it allows a lot of new and polished poets to come up and not feel so pressured in front of a huge audience. And so we're really excited about that. And so this season we decided to do themes just to give a little bit more depth to the evenings and a little less randomness to it. Of course, it's still going to be extremely random because it's poetry. So we figured the first thing we should do would be obsessions, because of Jessica's obvious obsession with collecting. If you haven't gone through the museum yet, I mean, it's an interactive museum. You can pull open drawers and check out all the nice little things, and it's definitely a lot of fun, because you'll always find something new when you get to cruise around in here. So we'll have a little intermission after a couple of poets, but let's go ahead and get started with a poet who I'm extremely excited to bring up this evening. I have yet to see this person, and they have been very popular in the poetry scene throughout Las Vegas. So please, let's get started, and please help me welcome Paul C. Williams.
No. That was a very generous introduction, I think. But yeah, my name is Paul C. Williams. I am also an author. I do write poetry as well, and I have my poems here on my notes app, so I'll just get started. I don't know if you guys write poetry on your phone too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so it's a collection, I think it's about 8 or 9 poems. They're not too long, so. Alright, my first one is called Red Like Love. Don't prey on love, lapping the marrow from its bones. It doesn't deserve that. Set the romance free, it will come to others in time. Placing your heart in an altar makes it unattainable. It's only there to relate to the world. You prevent it from doing so when you idolize it. Everything turns red. Red like roses, red like fire, red like blood. All poetry is love poetry. Don't write of the eyes, tell what they see. And that is the first one. This next one is called Fear. You've planted yourself into my flesh, penetrated my mind, and grow your roots alongside my veins. Heat pulses beneath the skin, and you anchor into my chest, tugging on my arteries, sending thick waves pulsing in my blood. These come before me like tidal crests, and I freeze, feeling your roots shiver as anxiety sours my terrain. But after the water crashes upon me, I float up and feel a sweet breeze whisper in my ear, planting your voice in my mind once more to repeat our torturous cycle. There are times when I want nothing more than to pull away from you with all the fiber of my being. These are the times that I dig my nails into your arms and pull you tighter until the ache begins to dull, and I want nothing more than an embrace. I have no more desire. Just let my soul fold into itself without intrusion, and I'll be happy. And it is here. This one is called Take Me to Your Place. It is about a friendship. I will specify. Hide me in your shell when I've outgrown mine. Our voices weave shadows until dawn kisses your windows, unveiling snack wrappers and abandoned socks like wreckage from a sunken warship. Your words are practical, though they come from the heart. Mine are drenched in blood, though cautiously ordered. Take me to your place, where our shadows can be one in darkness. I've condemned myself to power that I cannot wield. I love myself no more than when we stood together, yet I was desperate to flee. I am jealous of the sunlight. I am hateful. I thought you understood, and maybe you did. I'm not sure which cuts deeper. Take me back. And the next one is called Heart of Gold. My heart is on my lips, but I clench it like a fist. If I let a word slip out, blood rains down like doubt. If my hope were a secret, it's written on my face. Thick beats ring out the harder that I chase. But why I chase or how feels disconnected from right now. If emotions were gilded gold, does that make them harder to hold? or is the weight simply guilt that mine are not felt? Who do I want to hold the feelings I've dared so hard to mold? Whose hands do I claim worthy if my own are too cold? I do love myself, I'm just jealous because I want someone else. And that is... I feel like I'm reading through these a bit too fast, but I don't know, we'll see. This one is called Saint. It's shameful to admit, but I would like to be a saint. A martyr unnamed in their lifetime. I would have gilded statues, be bedecked in robes, my serene eyes gifting calm throughout the rows of a grand cathedral. I would be a spiritual centerpiece, a burning candle in the dark, my face a welcome greeting beneath John, Peter, or Mark, if I could tell you who they were or what they did. I'm a human on the sidewalk, hair blowing in the wind, the sun's behind me like I never once have sinned. Then an old woman comes up, to which I tug one headphone off. She says she's embarrassed, and I scrunch my brow as she wonders if I have any water on me now. I shake my head no, and she shuffles away. As I move forward with tentative steps, I spare a moment to think, I hope she doesn't faint. It's shameful to admit, but I would like to be a saint. This one is called Desire. The chili pepper was not always spicy. There was once a time its temperament was milder. I like to imagine it was sweet. Though plucked too frequently by prying fingers, the seeds within burned from rage. Though that did not keep the hands away. Quite the opposite, actually. Billions of years have come and gone since, and we enjoy the heat all the same. A challenge. I wonder if the pepper still thinks itself sweet to be so desired, or if it's content to revel in the pain it hopes to inflict, a smoldering spite. Why haven't all plants adapted in this way? Are the weaker to remain as they are, or stronger to do so despite the hardship? Perhaps there's no true difference, this weakness and strength, only fear and desire. That is desire. Alright, this one is called Tending, parentheses, a love poem. My heart is a garden that holds but one live flower among a grove of parched corpses, yet underneath they each share the same roots. Rain falls without your smile, and it drenches my soil in the shadow of your presence, dark as the pupil of your eye, deep enough to fall through without a floor or net beneath. Together we cradle as one in a cabin assaulted by frigid winter winds, little flakes so delicate as they mount a grave to bury our warmth in the ache of what must be. In a world of rigid parameters that seek at every corner to uproot and divide. With every embrace and every flood of passion, I mourn in turn for a potential loss, the ghost of stems wrecked by hands rough and careless, and so my own must be soft and cautious.
Ooh.
And the last one I wrote just before coming here. I wasn't really in a poetry mood these few weeks, so I wanted to get something out to fill up the space. So, but it's, I don't know. You guys tell me how it is. It's called Free. I want to be alone, more desperately than anything. I want to be self-possessed, wrapped in a cocoon, self-sustained, self-sufficient. I want to be alone, without knowing there's a single heartbeat for miles, not a soul adjacent to mine. I want to be alone, when the only sound is the echo of my breath and the sun is tucked away behind curtains. I want to be alone, to get away from you, and you, and you, and me. It has nothing to do with others, it only concerns myself. I want to be alone so that I can feel free.
Just as good as I was hoping it would be. Paul C. Williams, everybody. His sister, by the way, his sister's here to see me and seen him perform for the first time live. So I hope she thought it was just as amazing.
I got the biggest smile.
Yeah. All right. Well, I thought I would do a couple of my own since we're still waiting on Poetic V. So I figured I'd throw in a couple. Now I have two obsessions. One is one of my own. And the other one is about somebody else's obsession. Let me find it real quick. So this one Of course, I have a table of contents, and I didn't look into that. But so there's a local who was here years ago in the 50s, and she had a really hard life. Her name was Candy Barr, and she was a stripper who had lived here, but she was unfortunately, she had been sex trafficked, and she's got a long history of the mob, and her best friend was Sammy Davis Jr. for a long time, and just a really fascinating history with her. In fact, later in her life, she became a poet as well. But her obsession was dancing, and that's what ended up getting her kidnapped, and she was a really beautiful young woman who looked older than her age. But anyways, this is an ode to Candy Barr.
Wow.
Every chance you get, dance. Let it be your bliss. Let it set you free. When they steal you away, when they lock you in a cage, when they force you to do unthinkable things, every chance you get, dance. Let it be your bliss. Let it set you free. Thank you. Now this next one will be a little more of my obsession, which I've had to cut back. Let's see if I can find it here. It's another ode. All right. That's what table of contents are for. So some of you might have this obsession as well. And I've been lucky to cut back on this one. It's the news. And I felt a lot better since I stopped watching my morning ritual. But this is to the person who I've always found to be the most enlightening when it comes to informing me on what's going on globally. And this is an ode to Amy Goodman. When asked, where do you get your news? Without missing a beat, I say I start my morning with Amy Goodman every weekday. She first caught my ear in the mid-1990s, and I was immediately enamored. I was ripe and ready to receive her daily updates from the subversive movement. An activist in my mid-20s with a goal of bettering the world and a desire to educate the brainwashed masses, whether or not they wanted to be educated, I was determined. As civilizations rise and fall, Amy Goodman has been there, reporting the situations often in horrific detail, breaking through the illusion to wake up the brainwashed masses. I heard her, and still do. In war and peace, her voice cried out, "This way," and I ran on ahead in Amy Goodman's direction. Amy Goodman is an anthropologist at heart and by degree, determined to create social responsibility, reporting on the drilling and the killing, violence against indigenous people, their culture, water and land, from the greedy corporations and politicians. Amy Goodman makes entire countries nervous, and the truths she might expose. She's been shot at, beaten, and arrested, so the truth we shall know. A frontline reporter, determined and distressed. Looks like Amy Goodman has another warrant for her arrest. Not a corn dog editorialist, Amy Goodman is a fact-based investigative journalist, always hostile and combative to injustice and those that impose it. All the prizes and awards in the world wouldn't be enough to honor the job you do daily for us. Amy Goodman, you are the voice of our silenced majority. That's the first time I've read that poem out loud, actually. And I haven't seen Amy in quite a while. I miss her, but I feel a lot better. A little less stressed. Hey, and well, fantastic. She is okay. We can all take a breath. Well then, let me waste no time and bring up our next poet, who I'm sure many of you already know, but please let's give a warm welcome to Poetic V.
So clearly it's been a long day because I really thought this started at 7 and not 6. So my apologies, everyone. I apologize. But thank you so much again, Avantpop, Sugar, and Sean for having me this evening. And trying to decide, like, you know, what to share, what to talk about, I kind of went into a little different direction, I guess, when it comes with obsessions, in a sense of what might seem like a negative obsession, but if done correctly, can be actually very positive. And that is the obsession of grief. In 2017, my mom passed away. And it was a very traumatizing, difficult experience. It was out of nowhere. It was nothing to prepare for, nothing to prepare with. It was just 15 days from life to life support, and she was gone. And so if you ever experience grief in any level, you can understand the way that it affects you, right? And it can change everything about you in a good or a bad way. And so I realized, though, that if grief is not if it's not dealt with, if it's not brought to the surface, if it's hidden, if it's submerged, then it can cause a whole lot more damage than even the death or the issue itself. And so I just want to kind of take us on just a little journey of my experience with grief and kind of where I'm at and what I'm processing. And hopefully that you'll be encouraged that wherever you're at in whatever situation or dealing with grief or loss of any kind, that it will encourage you not to bury it, but maybe to bring it to life, to deal with it, and to heal. This first poem is called The Heart of a Motherless Child. God's grace is enough, but am I? Are my wings too short to fly? Have I clipped my ability to soar because I can't take much more? Echoing through my chest as this unrest does not seem to rest. Moving swiftly beyond pain and misery, is this really the story that's been written for me? See, God's grace is enough, but am I? Are my wings too short to fly? Have I clipped my ability to soar because I can't take much more? Pressure closing in on my chest as I confess I am tired of this test. Thoughts moving sideways as I enter and exit out of this haze, praying for shorter days and nights that make sense. Sorrow my fence. Will I ever be free? You are no longer here with me, so what is the point? Your memory, now the melodies to each song as I sing along, and at times I wish I could forget the lyrics. Because then maybe this wouldn't hurt so much. I can't believe I'll never again feel your touch. This is too much. Someone please change this arrangement. Bring the judge back in. I need another arraignment. More witnesses to testify. I can't fly without you. But now I'm left in an empty courtroom. My counselor comes to my side and tries to lift me up. I pull away. I'm stuck. I'll never get up. For I am trapped in a puddle of regretful tears, hidden fears. Escape not near. Pain is all I can hear. We weren't supposed to lose this case. Everything in your briefcase has proven you've done this before, so why fail now? The evidence, my faith, enough for the jury to take. Yet they all agreed. So now I bleed the heart of a motherless child. Thank you. So one thing about grief that I've learned is it has a covert way to show you to appreciate life, right? To appreciate those that you have around you, to love on those that you have around you. But if we allow it, it can also create a lot of regret. And that's something that I kind of have had to deal with was regret. This idea of like, I should have done more, I could have done more, all these different things. Then that's becomes a cycle and even a cage. So through this poem, really wanted to remember those that I still have while still wishing for something else. This poem is entitled Magic. Have you ever been told that you are magic? You know, like real magic. I was having a conversation with someone and they said, Vanessa, you are magic. And I began to think, if I were magic, what would I do? Maybe cast a spell to be rich so I can pay for all these high grocery prices in stores. Or maybe I would create a potion so that I would win every slam competition to give the judges. I get first place, maybe. If I were magic, then let me cast a spell so deep, causing my pain to vanish in thin air, conjuring up concoctions that chase sorrow away. If I were magic, I would wave my captivating wand, chanting enchanted words, hypnotizing death, once awakened, now turned to life. See, if I were magic, I freeze the last dinner we had and never let it finish. I would sing a song to the ocean, a melody so rich that it would shapeshift, causing ashes to rise from waves as they become bones, bone giving birth to flesh and then to breath. If I were magic, then I would bring my mother back. And I know magic is tricky, Rumpelstiltskin, so maybe this couldn't last forever, but for a moment, to feel her wrinkled ivory hands rest upon bitter and drenched cheeks, reminding me that life can still be sweet. To hear her voice again, calming my anxious soul as I try to comprehend life without her. I still can't comprehend life without her. To rest my head on her lap, a place of peace for a child that never can be described in words. If I were magic. Thank you. So I grew up in church my entire life. My grandmother had me in church, and that was my life. You know, I was ordained as a minister when I was 18. I traveled the world, all these things. God was my everything for so long. But what grief will have you do is question your faith. It will have you begin to question the things that you believe in, whatever that might be, and whatever realm or spec that is. But for me, it was God, right? And so for the first 2 years, I pretended like nothing was wrong. Right? I ignored the pain, I ignored the situations, and then I just went to a therapy session one time, and it was like my first and last therapy session because I wasn't having it. But you don't think you're ready, then you're like, I'm not ready. And so I went, and the therapist asked me, Vanessa, you have to figure out why you are so angry. And I'm like, what are you talking about? You see this face? See this smile? I'm not angry. What are you talking about? I'm fine. Right? But that question wouldn't let me go. And I was like, am I really angry? And one day, I really felt as if God whispered and said, you're angry with me. And I was like, I'm not just angry, bro, I'm enraged. Like, I'm offended. I don't have comprehension to what has happened. And it really has been a journey for my own spiritual life of understanding what do I really believe in? What do I really believe in? And all these different things. And although I've made my way back to having a relationship with God for my own self, grief didn't make me question everything. But I almost felt like it was good questions, right? Because how do we know what we believe in until we're questioning it, right? This poem is called To Believe God. I haven't been to church in a year. My Bible lays in between trauma and faith. It's dusty now. Prayers once released from a heart that would always praise has become bitter and stone. I'm afraid of what it might say. I walked the hallway where her room and mine were next to each other. We were never not supposed to be next to each other. Pacing the floor with pills in hand, I hope they are praying for me. You know, the ones I sacrificed my life for, those I spent hours on the floor for, tears of intercession turning carpet into puddles. God, would you reach them? God, how could this be part of your plan? That my pain now paves the way for purpose when I see no purpose in this plan. What do I have to gain? I started therapy, and on my second and last visit, the therapist asked me, Vanessa, you have to figure out why you are so angry. And I laughed. Like when God told an old woman she would give birth to a child, I'm not angry. The nagging of the question wouldn't relent until an answer was sent, a whisper from above, you are angry with me. And like a flood, my emotions exploded. I'm not angry. God, I'm enraged, caged by offense. You were supposed to be my defense, yet death came through. I placed all of my faith in you, but is faith still faith when God doesn't come through? I let everyone I knew come. I left everyone I knew to come to a desert, a deserted and alone. God, you promised to be my oasis, a shelter and a dry place, escape from the heat, but the test is scorching me. I'm drowning in my own dehydration. God, where are you? Thank you. Appreciate all of you. So, what I also realized when dealing with grief is that it changes your perspective on love, right? I began to believe that there was no way that I would ever be able to love the same, or even accept love the same. And so these next two poems are about my conflict with love, but also then my resolution, because I have had the abundant pleasure of now being with somebody that I never thought would be possible. And grief has almost taught me the importance of loving, and the importance of loving now, and loving fully, and loving without relent. This first one is called Wedding Day. I've had my wedding prepared since I was 12 years old. Planned and pictured every detail, fits perfectly in the frame of forever. The main color, yellow. Me and my mom's favorite color with an accent of cream and white on a beautiful day in April, where the residue of winter has fully dissipated. The same month my parents became one. Instead of flower bouquets, my bridesmaids would carry parasols, gently resting on their right shoulder as they walk with their arm linked to a groomsman, each dress the same color, yet different design to match each personality. Nothing here would be traditional. Yellow and white roses would rival the Garden of Eden. It would be a sight of paradise. My father, sharp as a tack, would probably be in a burgundy suit with a bunch of gold chains around his arms, wrists, and neck. He really thought he was Mr. T. My mother, as beautiful as a sunrise, her smile writing hope into the heart as she illuminates faith and love that's held my parents up for the past 29 years. They sit on the front row, my grandparents right beside them, holding hands of ebony that have been bound together for 50 plus years. There's longevity in my DNA. It would be the perfect day. But what happens when your plans and God's plans are not the same? He saw fit to make edits to my portrait, mounted forever in the frame of grief, hanging like the Mona Lisa in the Museum of Sorrow, looked upon but never really understood. Yellow, the color of the roses in her funeral arrangements. I wish I knew how to keep them alive. I wish I knew how to keep her alive. We said goodbye on a beautiful day in November, with the sun shining as if heaven sent its approval. Yet winter storms rage in my soul. Clouds of despair hover over hope as my father sits on the pew alone behind me. He rises to speak of their memories, reminiscing on the first day they met. Her smile collided with his charm. Small tears begin to form. Picture frames would sit on the front row instead of my grandparents. They were called to gaze on this day in a different way. What happens when your plans and God's plans are not the same? I have a groom now, a man so special I want to grow old with, but has my heart become too cold to grow with? How can I explain that when I think of our wedding day, it reminds me of everyone who has passed away? To begin to plan birth streams of pain rushing through my mind as I think, how am I supposed to do this day without them? Thank you. the hardest things that I dealt with was my dad moving to Vegas. So we lived in California for 5 years, or 20 years. Then my dad sold his house about 2 years ago. It's like my childhood home, the home I grew up in, all these different things. I didn't realize how hard, even though I had moved away, 5 years prior, but how hard it would be to say goodbye to that house, right? And I never thought that, again, I would have home again. I never thought that concept would be possible. But it is. When I was in the 5th grade, I was told to write a poem about home, to describe what it feels like, what it sounds like, what it smells like. Listening to my classmates' poems, maybe I did mine wrong. Home felt like prison. Iron bars connected to stone walls, couldn't be too loud, didn't want to upset the warden or the guard. Home sounded like screams of war and slammed doors. A lullaby I still have memorized. Home sounded like landmines exploding at nights. I could never tell where the bomb was hidden until it was too late. Sounded like 100 scraps of wrapping paper being put in the trash on Christmas Day. The only time life felt normal. Most said I was spoiled. But maybe it was the only way my parents knew how to love me. Home smelled like cigarettes plastered in walls, alcohol on breath hits to flesh. Smelled like desperation as I kept my mom from jumping off of a 3-story building. Smelled like agony because I couldn't really remember the first 7 years of my life. See, when trauma happens at a young age, it has a way of damaging a not quite developed hippocampus. I'm always forgetting. I'm always apologizing about forgetting. The last line of the poem was this: no matter the pain of home, the bars will always keep you safe. I was 10, yet at 28, home turned cold, like ICU room when mommy took her last breath, like moving boxes, packing up the last items that were her own. I was convinced I would always be a wanderer in a desert land, no place to call my own, no home. Until I met you. Sitting at the dinner table at 1 a.m. eating Mexican food as you teach your children life lessons. Hearing wisdom dance off your soft lips as you speak. I could listen to you for hours. Feels like joy jumping off of chest as new life begins to beat. Feels like peace when you sit next to me. Feels like gratitude for all the women who couldn't see your value, and now I have the privilege to constantly remind you. Smells like hope, like home-cooked meals perfectly set on the table of my heart's ingredients I never knew I needed. I've never been more full. Smells like the best cheesecake I've ever tasted. Your love is the best I ever had, and something I never want to live without. Sounds like sacrifice. The way you put your needs above mine. Smells like future, as I only want mine to be with you. See, I was convinced after my mother died, my heart wouldn't have the capacity to love again, that no one could love me like she did. You remind me of her. The way your mind was designed, perspective that would cause even the greatest scholar to scratch their head. Your smile when you look at me and say nothing yet say everything at the same time. How excited you get about the things that excite me. See, my mother did that best. I don't believe in reincarnation, but I swear you have her heart wrapped in the way you hold me. Warmth for everything in life, trying to make me cold, turn me bitter. You make me better. I never thought I would have home again. You are home. Thank you. Well, thank you guys so much again. Again, I hope that just through my expression, again, that whatever you might be facing or whatever you might be going through, that we go through it, right? We don't just sit back, but that there is true healing if we're a writer, for a singer, whatever we are, that we use that medium to release, because there's true healing when we let it out and when we let it go. Thank you guys so much again.
Woo, woo.
Before I forget, I I am a published author, and I have a book that is called Poetically Affirmed. It is a collection of I am poems that affirm you daily. I wrote this book in 2020, dealing with a lot of stuff, and it's an affirmation book of poetry. I knew that I was not in the best place mentally or emotionally or spiritually, but I didn't want to stay there. So I wrote myself into the place I wanted to be. And this is truly this book. If you would like one, I do have a couple copies. Again, thank you guys.
All right, Poetic V, everybody. I'm glad she was here. So we'll go ahead now. We have a restroom key, so we'll take a quick 10-minute break, get another drink, stretch your legs, keep your little placemat on your chair so you don't forget where you're at. Poetic V wasn't the only one. I thought this started at 7:02, so she's not alone there. That's why I have an agent, my wife. But go ahead, get up. If you need to use the restroom, we've got a key right out in the other room here, and we'll show you in that direction. Otherwise, we'll be back in 10 minutes.
No one opposed that.
Aren't in here, you can come and get a book over at Avantpop. Come hang out in here on Wednesdays. It's free. You can also make an appointment to bring friends down and do flat lays. So all these little things in here you can pick out and then put them all in the little tray she has and then lay them all out. And she's got a camera set up that you can take little photos. And you might see some of them. There's actually a little gallery in the back. If you haven't been in that back area, there's a gallery with all the little Polaroids of them. So that's super cool to check out too. Yeah, why don't you do that and we'll get ready for our next one. I do like having this podium. Some people ask, do you want the podium? You ask poets. I love to have something to lean on. It makes it so much better for us tall guys. So.
Maybe our height.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, this next poet I'm excited about. We have they're very young and been writing for a while now. I believe they published their first book at 13, if I'm not corrected. But anyway, they've been doing this for a while, and they're really talented. We gotta give a big hand here for Max Rifkin. Max, come on up, please.
No book yet.
Hello.
But published early.
Published early. There.
This poem's called Animatronic, written in 2019. A mind eclipsed by immortality, visions of flesh flexing without chance of decay, the thought of fusing mind with matter. He thought it wasn't all to be, until his love died a tragic fate, labeled as a casualty. But the thought lingered on. His grievance turned to grave robbing. His mind morphed by madness. His walls painted in blueprints. The gadgets and gizmos spreading his desk. Constant tuning and construction on her body remolded into half mortal, half machine. Her flesh fused with circuit boards, wires feed for fuel like leeches, mind mutated, brain upgraded into quantum computing emotions. entangled in energy. With a flick of a switch, she's reanimated. Monitor motors generate her screened vision. A completing canvas was where her heart lied. His metallic masterpiece complete. Her soul successfully resurrected to reality. It was like she never left, awakened from the void of death. That man had finally cheated, if only for a second. But the brain too much for machines to process. Her steel skin erupted in flames, membrane molten from robotic pain. His house caught in smoke, his tears drenched the streets as the blaze burned brighter, destroying all he made. This next poem's called Obsession, written in 2022. Stray huskies greet me in growls at the entrance to a house abandoned, once isolated from mystery or abnormality, until, dare I say, that cursed day, when the shrieks that emitted shook the bone of anyone near, when blood oozed from rose wallpaper and soaked bystanders' shoes in fear, when psychotic laughter could be heard, echoing for years and years, festering audibly in patterns from a voice desolate of dignity. At least that's what the townsfolk say. The doors croaked a grating whine, budging open to unveil an empty living room reeking of wine. Further treading the hallways that connects my wandering mind to each scene stuck in time. My eyes glued to the cozy wooden paneling, just to stop them from hiding. I stumble into the remains of a little boy's room. Toys lay scattered across the carpet, infested in bugs and dust. Graffiti sprayed everywhere I loom. A glance out a window in the room proves ghostly, for a shadow I had seen lurking behind a row of pine trees floated past without a rustle or scream. I spot a broken toy laying at the bottom of the pool, drowning in its hope for a child to reel it out and free it from its tomb. I find the parents' room mauled and torn. Every piece of furniture looked as if a beast had clawed and scoured for a living scent. A Bible with torn pages in the drawer, signed with a name I've sworn I've picked apart before from distant whispers. Faint, bloody footprints stained on the cement. I followed them closer, steadily avoiding glass shards. I began to realize these footprints similar in size to mine. But my ponderings only drift my focus away from these footprints, leading me to a crowded forest of revelations. In the center, a tombstone, a name etched at the top I saw many years ago. She is calling me from the silver cord. If only I could claw away this dirt and free her corpse. Disconnected observations synthesized into a coherent crime scene. Everything begins to reveal its face, except for the killer's name, bleached from every trace in my brain. No motive or past pain to filter out the one to blame. Nothing but disfigured remains of a grisly fate, better left to God's shame. That's all the poems I have.
Thank
Well, I really never like to use the term old soul, but geez, I mean, your storytelling it gives me chills. Okay, well, take a little breather there. Again, Max Rifkin, everybody. All right, well, we've got two other poets coming up that if you follow us at all at Avantpop, one of them we publish, one we will be publishing. They're two of our favorite people, and we're going to go ahead and start the next one with Gracie Garrett. Please. Katie
Wait, I'm sorry. I didn't think
That's
that.
okay. You can take your time.
Did not think that.
You taking a drink out?
Yeah. Fun. My first time in heels in years. Let's do it. Alright. Hi, everybody. I would just like to start by saying, of course, a big thank you to Shwa and Sugar and Avantpop in general. Yeah, man. And of course, I didn't catch the name of the woman who owns the office. Jessica, that lovely lady. You guys give us a great place to feel heard and inspired and creative, and of course this really cool place to be in to read. My obsession's a little darker. The last decade of my life I've struggled with really intense feelings of suicide and self-deprecation, childhood trauma, things like that, and writing has been a really big piece of me coming to terms with all of that, and hopefully moving on to the next step in Gracie's life where she's a little less sad. So just a fair warning, this is all going to be a lot of feelings, y'all. I'd like to start with something called Universal Punchline. I long for the bugs, for the crawling in my lungs, the things I could do with this body that does nothing more than share a few laughs, some touches and memories, but I'm afraid that's all I am, is hollow. At least when I'm in the ground, worms can use my collarbones as swings. The beetles can play pinochle on whichever parts of me that are left once the earth has taken what it can. The poison I take in, the oceans I drink in, are compared to the storms that come from my eyes. I am gasping for air through a battery-powered coffin that fits in my fingers where roots should sit. That's where I think I'd be happiest. Watching the earth take me back, my mother hugging me close as I watch from the fingertips of tree branches. Floating in space and time, while I am ravaged by the thing I tried to save. Let my muscles be nourishment to more intelligent things than me, I never use them much anyway. Let the tendrils take my weary bones, so they can rest easy knowing they support trees instead. My strength was never such for this world. It was never such for this body that failed me, but let it hold up life to the stars that laugh and mock from above at the pointlessness of our plight, giggling in our faces at a joke that nobody else gets. This one's called Funky Little Fungus Friends. Oh, the things you've helped me to see. The veils you've lifted, allowing light to stream in. Shapes and shards, fractals and free-floating particles. My consciousness, a river, lazing down it on an inner tube of blood cells and beautiful ideas. Letting free my breathing and locking away my fears, spores in my veins. And hours spent untraining my thoughts and unpacking boxes I've put away so as not to trip on them. Lately, however, it seems that my funky little friends have begun to whisper much darker things. What's the point of living when life is so much more beautiful, so much more bearable with your eyes closed? Maybe you should shut them forever. Come nap in the forest with us. It's where you belong. Forget your troubled mind and make a blanket of the moss. Curl up here under the cosmos and sleep, my dear. But of course, that's what they'd say to me. They're mushrooms, and they thrive on the death of our egos and our bodies as well. This one is called Call Me Ishmael. I don't know if anyone's a big fan of Moby Dick.
Never heard of it. Nobody's really a big fan.
There's a bookstore down the street.
Could be a movie, dude.
There's a ringing in my ear. Aching to be a bullet hole, a longing to be the pit that swallows me whole like Jonah and the whale. Some carnal thing inside me, beckoning me to the bay, never mind my lifelong fear of the ocean. Seagulls plucking at my heartstrings, exposed flesh and open wounds, lunching on my ligaments, these sinuous tethers, things no longer meant to hold me together. The fibers of my being now mere snacks for beasts that hunt the waves above and below. What a relief it would be. If only I could learn to breathe water for more than a few moments before I resign to take on the task of making my flesh into sand, feeding the fish and finding the message in a whale's song. There's sharks in the sea, but none as ravenous as those on land. No, these megalodon members of Congress, hammerheads pounding their gavels, shredding and hunting for one drop of blood to rile the masses. The schools of sheep swirling as though restless. The president, a clownfish complacent, current events and clickbait swimming in our brains, luring us to the wide open traps of those angling in the depths. I'd rather just take a deep breath in. Let the salt water clean the stench of air out of my lungs one last time before I sink into sleep and dream of the meaning in a whale's song. This one's called Yo Ho Ho and a Bottle of Abandonment Issues. Oh wait, no, I lied. I wanted to save that one for last. I lied. Hold on.
It's the titles for me.
We're gonna go to crutches. I am fractured, cracked like my ankles on so many curbs, lying sideways on a sidewalk, left to the litter and refuse of this shit-stained world, unfortunately. There is no cast that can contain me, no brace to hold my broken bits together, so I brace myself instead. Against the imbalance sure to come and knock me off my axis, I can't run very far, at least not on joints like mine. I find tendons shredded by so much abuse, I find it hard to mind my feet, so I find refuge in my oldest friend, the concrete. I make love to the asphalt with a mouthful of gravel. We have been introduced so many times by the lack of control I have over my shoes, so I guess I should shut up and get to the I do's. Just marry the filthy bitch already. Lay myself against her and test out flat earth theories. If I could, I'd sprout wings and soar over the streets. If only I wasn't so sure, I'd smack my head into every cloud in the heavens. I'm tired of being sore. All the way down to my bones, to the core of my being, I'd shoot into the skies and leave all of this world behind. If only I wasn't so sure that I'd fall back to this stinking rock, a heap of bones, lying in a pile on the sidewalk, fractured. I do want to read this one before I go to the other one, because this one's one of my favorites. Try not to cry during this one, my bad.
You got it, poet.
This one is called Go the Fuck to Sleep. I write the best of my thoughts when I shouldn't be writing at all. When I lie in my bed ready to rest and settle, but these words just insist on dancing through my head, tap-tapping, tiptoeing, catching every creaky floorboard, like hangnails in drywall, every backbeaten daydream, tripping me up and keeping me up, echoes down a corridor, hung with paintings, some portrait, landscape, and the like. Faces and places, all their misty eyes and false muzzles, 1,000-yard stares with more contempt than a poor man. I'd like to open a window, I think, to let in some air and clear the stink, the rot decaying these old bones. See, all I've ever known is bouncing from home to broken home, but what plays loudest is the silence. The emptiness that fills like water into lungs, that nothingness that takes up every bit of room. It whispers those things that tell me to blow the roof off the house entirely, to fill the pipes with poison until it slumps into a heap of plaster, maybe hang it from a tree, like a home for birds to make safe in its breast, hollow and husk-like. Let it at least give refuge to something where it knew none before, forgotten in the foliage like it always wanted. No matter what I scream into that void, it just keeps spilling over into my wakeful hours. So here I am, writing this stupid poem about houses when I should be asleep. Thank you guys, thank you so much. I hope I filled the time okay, for sure. This is going to be the last one I read this evening. And it is somewhere in here. I just clicked on it. Where are you? Ah ha ha ha! Yo ho ho! And a bottle of abandonment issues. I'm taking a leap. Not the kind I used to daydream about, like off a building. In fact, quite the opposite. I'm stepping out of my old skin, shaking off and sloughing away the fleshy chains and all the thoughts in my brain, keeping me on my knees and curled in my blankets, searching beneath the waves like a ship in a glass sea. For the last decade of my life, I've been a pirate, plundering and pillaging and pissing off everyone I love, promising from states away that I'm seriously okay, guys, I can handle this. Once, and many times after, that was a lie. I'd bury my faults in the sand like poor man's treasures, never knowing the riches I truly had. It's time to hang up the sword and learn to fight with myself in better ways, to open the curtains and stare at the daylight. No fear in my eyes, no condemnation in my soul, just learning to roll with the punches and get started on this odyssey, taking in the greatest adventure of becoming me, allowing myself to do away with the shipwreck I've been and become the captain of a life worth living. So set sail for home and anchors away. I'm not making port until I find myself happy in the light of this brand new day. Thank you guys so much.
Gosh, there's a few poets that bring tears to my eyes. Gracie Garrett's one of them. We host a few different poetry events, this being one of them, the Intimate. We also have the Poetry Arcade, which is a little bit bigger. We're bringing a variety of poets there as well. But we also host Doomed Poetry over at the punk bar across the street called Red Dwarf. And great little spot. But the booking agent wanted to make sure that the poets that spoke there were apocalyptic, doomy style and themes, but also it's a punk bar, so she wants to make sure that they're entertaining and captivating. And so, there's been we've been doing it now for quite a while, and there's been some great poets that the audience and the booking agents love. But Gracie Garrett has become one of their new favorites. So, we're stoked to have her. We're stoked to continue to work with her, and she just brings me all crazy because her stuff's so great. This next poet, we did publish his first book of poetry, and the first edition is sold out. We just did the second printing of it, and we're really excited. His best friend did the artwork for the poetry, but his poetry fits very well into Doomed Poetry over at Red Dwarf. But he has a way with words and storytelling, and he's gripping and frightening and entertaining and beautiful all at the same time. So please help me welcome Garrett James Dillon.
Thank you very much. Beautiful, I don't know, but the rest of those things probably. Put that right there. Right on. Before I start, my name is Garrett James Dillon. Let's have a round of applause for all the other poets that read tonight. Those are some heavy sets. I'm honored to share this podium with them. As Shwa mentioned, we currently have the second edition of my book of poetry with my friend's illustrations. We also just released a choose your own drug adventure styled zine called Pick Your Own Poison, which will be part of a series, which is also available for purchase with Sugar and Shwa over at Avantpop. So my obsession is drugs. I am a unapologetic drug user, and I've been obsessed with drugs since I was a young child. Before I knew about my family's history with addiction, before I started using drugs, before people that I knew started dying from using drugs. And the reason that I feel the need to be so open about it isn't necessarily exhibitionism, it's that stigma kills. If you're not open about it, you can't talk to people about it, then you're more likely to be isolated and make decisions that are ultimately not beneficial to you. Woo. That being said, I'd like to get started here. And I'd also like to explain some of these poems and the drugs and experiences that have inspired them. I'll start out with one in the book. This is called A plus B minus. It has to do with using LSD, acid, to come up, and then benzodiazepines, Valium, Klonopin, Xanax, to come down. So, this is called A plus B minus. The morning birdsong skins me alive, leaves only eyeballs to dart about wildly, curled up in a ball of tequila sweat and raw nerves, exultant lysergic translator, speaking only in circles. Dead-end streets under the covers turn birth canals to unwelcome sunlight. Jagged, I marvel at the flowing rivers and stucco above. And now I'm falling over in my dreams, getting kicked on indecipherable sidewalks, gasping through hypnagogia, false start rebirth on repeat. You have to regain earning consciousness. You have to die over and over until it's your turn to wake up. Woo! Whenever I take a drink, that is the punctuation. That is the end of a poem. This next one is called Witch's Teeth, which, to explain, a witch's tooth is a Xanax bar, which has been coated in Rick Simpson oil, which is a very strong hash oil. It's the only way to fly. Now, witch's teeth. I get by on spells and potions. A wizard born too late and breaking down too early. My hands shake as I caress the syringe like a sigil, filled with the sticky black earth magic of Ludlow's nightmares and Baudelaire's dreams. Descended from occult tradition and lacquered upon a 2-milligram emerald, alchemy reborn in the pharmaceutical age. I nod into the blissful abyss ritual, head bowed down in narcotic meditation, eschewing enlightenment for dark medication. See, the law of equivalent exchange can't be broken like a cheap pill. You can't gain anything in this life without losing something of equal or greater value. So I'll feast on witch's teeth till I slip into amnesiac slumber and wake up zombified to mysterious and infected bite marks. One day you are what you eat, and then you wake up to find that you are what you are eaten by. Thank you, I'm very good. All right.
I'm so humble.
I know. I'm not going to explain the drug behind this one. I'm going to use a little bit of subtlety. This one is called Speed Freak. Well, at least the skeletons I'm hallucinating are smiling as they lurk shimmering geometric between the shadows on the wall. I crack my clenched jaw into a grin fit for a graveyard, bid them good morning, and continue on with my toxic ritual, filling my bunker temple with a cursed fog stillborn from a filth pearl white glass vessel. A strong stench like diesel fumes crossed with snorted pharmaceuticals makes itself at home, cultivating negative energy because it's the only fuel that seems to work for me, powers me to pace lost and manic, looking for nowhere and finding it everywhere. Sleep deprivation and starvation, diet disorientation guide me along this circular path like a broken compass under a starless night. This is the only poem that isn't actually based on direct experience, but based on people that I know. Not that I'm judging, but here we go. This one is called Dustin's Huffing Dust Off. This here is a clown family, god damn it! And we'll burn that way together. Dustin screamed at an empty apartment, devoid of all other life save for black mold and silverfish, flicking a box cutter in and out as he paced amongst old newspapers, sacked to the ceiling or scattered on the floor. Chain-smoking cheap cigarettes covered in burns and scars, he checks the peephole every minute and a half in vain. The smell of carcinogens would overwhelm even the most unreal of company. The taste of poison is his only companion under constantly flickering lights, and the sound of the dripping faucet serves as a metronome to his mundane madness. Numbness is the only gift he's ever received, and he clutches its aluminum vessel like a golden handgun. Depleted muscles twitch in his wrist as he puts the business end in his mouth and pulls the trigger. The do not resuscitate bracelet dances on desperate sweat, steady till the seizure kicks in, the only thing he's ever earned. And then the inevitable collapse as all three take a final vow. The mold and the bugs will eat better tonight than Dustin had in months or even years. And the final tragedy, in a long line of fantastic tragedies, is the waste of a can only half empty, gripped in a rigor mortis fist. Let's see here. I don't necessarily endorse drug use. I endorse people choose what they want to do with their lives. That being said, this next poem is about dissociatives in astronomy. And I have to tell you, don't get into astronomy. It's a waste of time. This is called Ketamine Moon. Turned on with the safety off, my nightmares come true and gnaw my bones. Dancing with a hospital gown or drowning in moonlight, you know exactly what you are. Been this way since fractured memory can recall necromancer's funeral so full of dull surprises. They found me, baptized in vodka, biting rats in consecrated darkness, and I found them boring and predictable, lost valor seizing up underneath comatose stars. I lost them under a hornet sun, subsisting on sand and other crystalline landscapes, guided by futility through this cursed quest to understand, this thirst that begs for relief with no exceptions, this hunger that knows no defeat or death. This is one from high school. This is some real old stuff. So this is called NyQuil Nod. It's a very short one. Man, knocked out in the ether, purified downward and burning brightly, rising falsehood to steal more hours. I trade everything for nothing in particular, and smile only when it isn't excruciating.
Nice.
This will be the last poem for me for the night. This is called $108.35, which is what 2 canisters about yay big of nitrous oxide costs. On a credit card that's already pretty much you don't have money for. Anyway. Fresh air is fine, but I've had better. Inhaling deep the breath of dissociative angels, those imperfect messengers and unreliable narrators who speak in riddles that tickle my spine and drain my wallet, then sing a distorted chorus as I exit their inverted paradise, returning wild-eyed and neutralized to a place some might call home. But the angels, they called me, and so back down I go. All spirituality is transactional. I just like to keep the receipt, to fold it up into an origami albatross and set it on fire, watching the flames suck in the oxygen greedily before burning up and blowing away down dirty streets. I watch and feel nothing but a strange kinship and intense cravings. In my experience, that's better than feeling nothing at all.
All right, Garrett James Dillon, everybody. See, if you read enough, drugs won't affect your brain. So someone reads a lot, let me tell you, which is super impressive. So we'll be doing this again here in next Sunday, and our theme is Invisible Ghosts. So we'll have another crew of wonderful poets locally, and some will be returning as well. So if you found a fan here, check our websites. You'll be able to come see them again. We also have Doom Poetry that we'll be doing it tomorrow night. So we're trying to do as many of these as we can to give voice to all the great poets that are out there locally as well. And I am going to go ahead and leave you with one of my obsessions and a bit of an addiction that I've been working with, using and dealing with, I guess you'd say, for the last few years. So I've always had a hard time sleeping. Cannabis has been a big part of helping me get to sleep. Ambien, but I've had some sleeping dream things that have happened while I was awake because of Ambien. So they don't give it to me anymore for some reason. But one of the things that has really helped me go to sleep, and I wake up maybe once or twice a night to do it, is peanut butter. It sounds weird, but peanut butter it just knocks me out. A little bit of honey. So this is a poem about a little bit about that obsession and peanut butter's friends. And I've read this one multiple times. People like it, but I thought obsessions, this is one that I'm definitely obsessed with. The title of this poem is called These Nuts. They started out as a snack, but they've become the main meal. I'm having a hard time stopping the way that I feel. I need to be patient when handling a few. Some nuts are hard to crack, symbolically blue. A good solid nut takes work to get. I hope you're good with your hands and you're ready to sweat. Don't be ashamed if you need to use tools. Use anything you have to reach that sweet jewel. I could talk for days on the subject. I'm not allergic in any way. Nuts and I go back a very long way. Peanuts, of course, was my gateway to the richness of almonds and the sweet cashew. Hazelnut, you know you're fine, but mixed with chocolate, you're absolutely divine. I like my nutty lovers just a bit toasted, like those crazy chestnuts and macadamians are best when they're roasted. Pistachio, you elegant, high-class hoe. If only I could afford you. Like your nutty mistress friends, the pine nut and Brazilian, to nibble on all of you, I'd put the work in. Sunflower and sesame, you freaks, you're just seeds. But I'm down to get freaky if you want a nut butter for me. The creamy, the crunchy, the chunky, and the buttery. I'm so happy I'm not allergic to this rich, savory sluttery. Thank you, everyone, for coming. So, hang out a little bit if you'd like. I want to thank all of our poets for coming out this evening. We're always excited to have you guys and everybody else. I hope you enjoyed this. Like I said, we'll continue to do this as long as Jessica will have us. We will be taking the rest of our drinks over to the bookstore if you'd like to check the place out. Pick up one of the poets' books that we have there. We also have some zines that the poets are featured in from our Doom Poetry Night. And we have a zine, the punk rock, Avantpop punk anthology, where the poets submit a 100-word or less poet, that we published that too. So thank you everybody for coming out tonight. My name is Shwa, my wife Sugar. She's the brains, obviously, so if you have any questions, please direct them to her. All right, thanks everybody. Appreciate you.
These nuts, that's what how